Hello and welcome to this lecture. And in this lecture, we will learn a little bit more about static files. So we have already used static files in Django, and now let's learn a few more things about it. So let's first learn what exactly are static files. So we all know that we have used CSS as a static file, but files such as images as well as JavaScript can also be static files. So in the upcoming examples, we are also going to use images and we are also going to use some sort of JavaScript code, and that code should be actually placed in these static files which we have just used. Now, the next thing which we are going to learn is how exactly does Django know where these static files are located. So what we have done here is that in the previous lecture we went ahead and we have created a directory or a folder named as static, and Django automatically looked at that particular static direct to look for static files. So how exactly does Django know about where exactly are these static files located? So if you go into the settings.py file of your application, you will find this particular variable right here, which is static_URL. And as you can see here, the path for static files is clearly mentioned. So it's mentioned that the static files are actually present at this particular location right here. So these settings are automatically configured by Django so that whenever you want to actually go ahead and whenever we load some static files, Django now knows that as this static URL variable points at this path, it needs to look for those static files at this particular directory. Now if you want to change that, you can simply go ahead, write in some another name over here, and a new path will be configured for static files directory. Now one more thing which you need to learn here is that if you have a look at the installed app for your project, this is actually installed app for a different project, so please ignore the above few lines of code. But if you have a look at the bottommost part over here, as you can see, it says django.contrib.static files, and this is the exact same app which actually allows you to go ahead and use static files in Django. So this thing actually allows you to manage all the static files which we have in our Django application. So remember that static files can not only be CSS files, but it also can be some image or JavaScript. So let's say if you want to use some static image on your website, you can actually use that particular image and store that image in the static directory. And the reason why we are storing the images, JavaScript and CSS in our static directory is because these parts are the static parts of your website. That means these things are not going to change. So let's say for example, if you have an image of your website logo, so that logo is going to remain the same throughout unless and until you go ahead and manually change that logo. So that means whatever content is not going to change frequently is going to be present in the static files directory, and that's the very same reason why we call them as static files. So that's it for this lecture, and I hope you guys were able to learn a few more things about static files. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.